Good morning, students. Let's continue with the chapter 12th Night. Please open to page number 66. We have completed till the place where Prince Orsino he comes to Olivia's house to deliver his message personally. So let's read it. As they stood there, the officers of the law who had captured Antonio came along the street with their prisoner. Now, when they were standing outside Olivia's house, there were some, officials, the officers of Prince Orsino. They came there with whom? With Antonio as a prisoner. They were searching for the prince. So, what they were doing? They were actually looking for the prince. Why? They had the prisoner and they just wanted to show him to the prince. When they saw him, they led Antonio up to him, saying that this was the very man who had wounded his nephew. So, this is what they did. They took him to the prince and told him that this is the man who actually wounded your nephew, and that they had found him fighting in the streets of the town. And apart from that, they also told him that they found Antonio fighting on the streets of his town and had arrested him according to their orders. And they have arrested Antonio as it was an order given by the prince. When Voila saw Antonio and heard the charge laid against him, she told her master what she already knew about him. So when Voila saw that Antonio was captured and was taken in by the officers, she told the prince about how Antonio entered in the fight and saved Voila. Right? Okay. She said how when returning home she had been attacked by a stranger. So she didn't disclose the fact to Prince Orsino that she was forced into a duel with Sir Andrew, but she said that just a stranger attacked her, and she had been attacked by a stranger, and how this man had drawn his sword to fight for her and saved her from her enemy, but that afterwards he had spoken strange words to her which she could not understand. So, Voila tells the prince that, see, Antonio is a nice man. He saved me from a stranger who actually who was trying to hit me with a sword. So, Antonio was the one who saved me. But after doing that, I don't know, he was saying some strange words which were difficult for me to understand. Now Antonio still mistook Voila for his friend Sebastian. Now Antonio, when he was there, when these officers were holding him, he again thought, what is wrong with Sebastian? How come he's not recognizing me? So when he heard her words, he explained angrily to the prince how he had dragged this youth, half drowned, from the sea. So when Antonio saw that Voila is acting as if she doesn't know Antonio, Antonio got really angry and he told the prince how he saved Sebastian's life. Okay, not Voila's life, but Sebastian's life. And how he has shown him every kindness and kept him with him for 3 months. He even told the prince that I have kept this man for 3 months, and how they had landed together that very morning on these shores. He also told the prince that on that very day, on that very morning, he and Sebastian landed on that place, on that island, I'm sorry. He went on to describe the events which had happened in the town, how he had followed the boy for fear he might get into trouble, though he knew he was risking his life in doing so. He even told the prince that, see, um, today morning, me and Sebastian, we landed on this island and I have been kind to this boy. I've been following him, taking care of him, so that he won't he won't land into any kind of trouble. And now this is how he's returning my favor. How in return the boy had behaved in doing most ungrateful way, refusing to return his purse and even pretending that he did not know him. So the worst thing that Sebastian Voila actually did to Antonio was not recognizing him and not returning his purse. However, we know actually the purse was with Sebastian, and Sebastian is the one who was supposed to recognize Antonio, not Voila. Right? Okay, let's continue. Fellow, replied the prince, you speak like a madman. So the prince told Antonio that you are speaking like a madman. For 3 months past, this young man has waited on me as my servant boy. So Prince told him straight away that for 3 months, this boy, he has waited on me like he's my servant. But here comes Olivia. Officers, take him away. I will speak again with him later. So while they were, all engaged in this kind of conversation, who enters in? Olivia. So Prince tells the officers just to take Antonio away and we'll deal with it later on. Then turning to Olivia, he said how cruelly she had behaved towards him in spite of his great and unchanging love for her. So here Prince Orsino, he turned towards Olivia and told her that how much he loved her and how cruelly she had returned his messengers and the response. Okay, but Olivia would not listen to him. All her looks were for Cesario, and all her words were words of kindness to him. Now Olivia, she knew that she's married to Cesario. Actually, she was married to Sebastian. So whatever she was saying, whatever she was doing, it was only for Cesario. That is Voila again, right? And not for the prince. Keep that in mind, okay? Then Orsino began to see what had happened. The servant boy whom he had sent so often to Olivia had become his rival and won his lady's love. Now Orsino was really hurt. He thought, the servant boy whom I've been sending with my love letters, with my messages, has, become my rival now. Why? Because he has won Olivia's heart. Speaking angry words to Cesario, he turned to go, commanding the servant boy to follow him. Now, Prince Orsino, he got really angry. He shouted at at Voila, Cesario, and he commanded him to follow him. This was indeed what Voila most wished to do. Now, Voila, she actually wanted to go with the prince, for Olivia's words of love made her feel uncomfortable. Why? Because the way Olivia was, talking to Voila, she became uncomfortable. So though Olivia asked her several times to stay, she followed her master, swearing as she did so that she loved him more than her own life and more than she would ever love a wife. So what Voila said here, that I love working with the prince and I will only follow his orders. I'll do anything, right? I'll just go with him. And she even says that I love him more than my own life and more than I would ever love a wife. So she is dressed as a boy and that's why she's saying that. Then Olivia forgot her promise that she would keep her marriage secret and in despair cried. Despairing sadness, she cried out, Cesario, my husband, stay. So she shouted that Cesario, my husband, just stay. Husband, repeated the prince in astonishment. Yes, my husband, replied Olivia, and he himself will admit it. He himself will admit it. Now, Olivia, she said, oh, he's my husband, and he's just walking away. So the prince got surprised, and he said, oh, he's your husband? Okay. No, my lord, I'm not her husband. Now, Voila is not Olivia's husband. And that's what she says. Oh, my lord, no, my lord, I'm not her husband. Olivia had already sent a servant to bring the priest who had married her to Sebastian. And scarcely had Voila finished her reply when the holy man arrived at the spot. The priest came, right? Now, to the questions put to him by Olivia, he replied that in truth, scarcely 2 hours had passed since the marriage paper had been signed by these two in his presence. So, priest, he told the prince, yes, just 2 hours before only, these two have signed the papers, and now they both are married to each other. Though Voila saw that she had taken part in no such ceremony, the prince felt sure that what Olivia and the priest were saying must be true. Now, Voila, she kept on saying, no, that's not possible. I was not here. She kept refusing. But Prince, he believed Olivia and the priest. He grew fiercely angry at the ill behavior of the servant boy, whom he had thought so faithful, and turned to go, asking Voila never again to come into his presence. Now, the prince, he felt so hurt. He felt as if somebody, yeah, of course, the one whom he trusted has betrayed him. So he felt really bad, and he told Voila never ever to come in front of him again. All stood puzzled and confused at what had happened. Now, all the ones who were standing there, they were confused and puzzled. Like, what is happening here? Servant boy is married to the lady whom Prince loves, and everything, there was all confusion and confusion. There was nothing clear. Olivia was hurt and surprised at Voila's statement that she knew nothing of the marriage, to which she rather, like she thought Sebastian had agreed so willingly 2 hours before. Now, Olivia was completely hurt and heartbroken. She was thinking that just 2 hours ago, he was the one who agreed. Now, she's thinking about Voila as Sebastian, right? Voila could not understand why the priest should accuse her of being present at a ceremony in which she knew she had taken no part. Now, even, Voila was surprised why a priest would lie, right, or would accuse a girl like her that she was there in that kind of a ceremony when she was not there. Okay, then to add the astonishment of all came Sebastian. Now, finally, when they were all thinking, who enters in? Sebastian. He first spoke friendly words of greeting to Olivia, addressing her as his wife. Now, of course, Sebastian is the one who married Olivia, and that's why he addressed her with loving words. Then he turned eagerly to Antonio and told him how pleased he was to see him and how anxious he had been in his absence. Then he suddenly turned and he looked at Antonio. He went straight away to him and he greeted him and he told him that I have missed you and all whatever. The wonder of everyone present knew no limits when they saw Voila and Sebastian, so much alike in appearance and in voice, standing before them. Everyone present there was surprised to see Sebastian and Voila, that they were so much alike. They were twins. Even their voices were similar. Looking at the pair, none could tell which was Cesario. But the surprise of the brother and sister was greater than all. Now, brother and sister, they were there and they were looking at each other. Had you been a woman, cried Sebastian, I should welcome you with tears of joy as my sister Voila, whom I believe drowned. But big brother, I have none. So he welcomed the girl and said that I believe you are Voila, my sister. If my dress is your only difficulty, replied Voila, then wait a while, and I will take you to a captain in this town who saved me from the wreck, and by whose help I obtained these clothes. so that I might wait upon the prince as a servant boy. So here, finally, she discloses the fact to her brother and to everyone that she is a girl, and there's a captain in the town who helped her in changing her look, and he's the one who even saved her. So finally she discloses the fact, and that's what she says here. So that I might wait upon the prince as a servant boy. She wanted to work for the prince. My own clothes lie at his house, and when I put them on, you shall know me and rejoice, for I am indeed your sister Voila. So she tells Sebastian that yes, indeed, I am your sister Voila. When I change my dress, then you will recognize me. The situation now being clear, Sebastian turned to Olivia and began to make sport of her for having fallen in love with a woman. So finally, Sebastian turned to Olivia and he made fun of her by saying that you fell in love with a girl. You actually fell in love with a woman. And with having married a man by mistake, and she married a man by mistake. But Olivia seemed contented enough at the turn of events. But Olivia was happy that finally she was married to Sebastian. Then Orsino, seeing that Olivia was really married to another, remembered how often Cesario had said he should never love a woman as he loved him. He therefore asked Voila for her hand and made her declare again her love for him. Now Prince, finally he was aware of the fact that Olivia is really married to a man, to another man, and then he had to give up his obsession or his love for Olivia. So what he did, he turned towards Voila and he remembered how Voila has told him quite a number of times that she loves the prince more than she would love any other women. So here finally, she is happy. He's happy, Prince Orsino. He turns to Voila and he actually asked for her hand in marriage. Okay. He therefore asked Voila for her hand and made her declare again her love for him. So he questioned Voila whether she loves him or not, and then he asked for her hand. Then he led her away, promising that as soon as she had obtained women's clothes, once more she should no longer be his servant boy but his wife. So finally, in the end, we can see that Voila, Prince tells Voila that once she gets her women's clothes, then of course she won't be a servant boy but his wife, and that's what he wanted. Finally he wanted to marry Voila. So I hope this chapter is easy, right? Just go through it. You'll be getting MCQs, right? So you don't have to learn long question and answers. You'll have to learn from the chapter. So make sure that you read the chapter nicely. Okay, please do not miss any line. Do not miss any part of your story or your chapter. Go through it nicely. Right? If you have any doubts, do let me know. It's a beautiful story. You'll have to read it line by line to understand it. Right? And please make sure that you just go through the question and answers. I'll help you mark them. But again, you'll be getting MCQs. So the best thing is read the chapters rather than only going for the question and answers. Is that clear? I'll just give you the last thing here. Just go through the chapter. Read and read. It is very important that you read the chapter. Right? And the story is about these two. Please remember. If you want, you can make this map and learn it or read it. The question and answers after the chapter will be doing that, right? But right now, I just want you to understand that you'll be getting short question and answers mostly from the chapter itself. Read the chapters, not only in this, but also in your literature, English literature reader. You'll be getting most of the MCQs, so go through the chapters rather than going through the question and answers. Please do that, okay? That is very important. Okay, then I'll do one thing and help you with the answers later on. Okay, then, thank you.